My car's in the shop, so I can't get there. But anyhow,
Well, I think Councilman Marcy is also asked for
Online, yeah, he'll be online.
so
okay.
he's got the new baby, so
Oh,
that-
that's a better excuse.
You can bring the baby and let me hold him.
Oh, I know.
I think it's 6 o'clock. I think we're good to go.
Started. Time. You remind us of that.
Like awful. Okay, so we're quick.
I don't have that.
Oh,
Do we have any public meeting?
Not that I heard, not online either.
We need to review the minutes from last time. Anybody have any corrections for them, the minutes from last time? Okay. All right, can I get a vote to approve them? And second,
I'll second that.
Adjustment, Denmark.
Okay, now we need a vote.
Hey,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Kathy? Oh, there you go. Saying is off camera.
Oh, there is.
There it is.
Nope.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Oh, you got a mustache mark.
Oh,
How's it going on?
All right, take it away.
your turn. You're
Oh, we heard?
first, yeah. No, unless you want me to go first.
Happy to go.
Okay.
We have our slide. Yep, I'm gonna pull it all. Thank you. The sharing this one. Yeah, we're so prepared.
Yeah, no, she was ready.
Can you guys see that?
I don't think you're sharing it here.
I don't see
There we go.
anything on our end.
Well, there it
There you
is.
go.
It's coming.
How about now?
I see it now.
Yeah, I see it.
Well, thank you, board member. So, we're here tonight to give a kind of preview of a presentation that we'll give to City Council on March 24th. And that is essentially our annual report for a lot of the expenditures, both on the federal side and Affordable Housing Fund that HCI did in 2025. So I have quite a few slides, and you all are welcome to listen into the March 24th council meeting as well. That will be a public hearing, so that one will be a little more formal, but it'll be a very similar presentation. So I will go through this on behalf of the team, but before I start, I just want to give a big thank you to all the HCI team members. So Larissa's with us in person. She's our accountant. So all the numbers being correct because of her, and she keeps me in line as I'm trying to not spend more money than we have coming in the door for projects. And then also online, we have, it's all Alexis and Katie, but really the whole HCI team, and Molly's online too, our fearless leader. It takes a lot of work from the whole team to put this report together every year that we have to submit to HUD. And it was really a team effort. So even though I'm speaking, I just want to acknowledge that everyone contributed to this, and it takes us about a month to get everything to this point that we could go to council. So feel free to interrupt me as I go through the slides. If any board members have questions, I'm happy to stop. And for the folks online, if you can just unmute and shout out, because we can't actually see you. So just come off mute and stop me if you want me to stop. Okay. So just in level setting as we get started, as a reminder, so here in Longmont, our definition of affordable housing is outlined in our code. So for rental housing, we consider the units affordable when they're rented at a level that's affordable to households at 50% of our area median income. And we use the area median income for Boulder County. Even though we have a sliver of Longmont in Weld County, the vast majority is in Boulder County, and the Boulder County market and economics really drive our housing market. So we use Boulder County numbers. So for homeownership, that number is 80% AMI household. So these are codified in our code. And when projects come in, they have to meet these affordability thresholds to be considered that capital A affordable. So in terms of broad numbers, generally we get new AMI numbers from the state about April or early May every year. So we're still operating off of 2025 numbers. So that 80% for Boulder County is a little over 84,000 for a single person household. And if you're looking for a 4-person household, 120,000. And again, that 80% is our threshold for sale projects. And then for rental, what we consider affordable is that 50% AMI. So we're looking at 52,750 for a single person, and a family of 4, a little over 75,000. And Boulder County does have one of the highest area median incomes in the state. We are not quite as high as some of the rural resort, think like Summit County, Aspen, those areas, but certainly amongst the Front Range, we have one of the highest. And really what that median income means is that half of individuals in the county make more and half make less. So for a single person, again, this was 2025 numbers, for one person, the median income is over 6 figures. So that just really illustrates how high our incomes are in this county, and that in turn leads to higher housing costs. So I think it's always helpful to start with like real numbers.
Well, quick question. I've never asked this. I've been doing this for years and years, and I've never asked this. Is this looking at gross? Is when you talk about AMI, are you looking at gross income, or do you guys talk about AGI? Like,
yeah, good question. So when we do income qualify, it is based on gross income.
okay,
But this is assuming that a household's not paying more than a third of their monthly income on these housing costs. When we back into, there's a lot of math to go between income and like rent or for sale prices, and that it's called a front end ratio of like what are you actually paying per month. We use that 1/3, but yeah, all income qualification programs are based on gross, as are mortgages, which is why for anyone who's bought a home, you often run into, you get approved for more than you can actually comfortably afford because they're doing it based on pre-tax income. Does that answer your question?
yeah. No, I was just wondering because when I did food stamp, we also use gross, but we had like a standard deduction. Like we know that there's, I forget what the percentage was. It's 20 years ago, but I was just wondering.
Yeah, everything's based on gross.
I always wondered how I don't know if you can even answer this, but how it goes up incrementally per person, because more often than not, the extra people are kids that don't work at all.
So so I know the federal poverty limit. I don't do AMI, but there's a formula that looks at needs, and so it's not it's with the federal poverty income level, it's more about needs than it is about income. They're saying this is what you need to make to be a federally poverty, but they're at the 100% of federal poverty income level.
Yeah. 3 times.
Yeah, so that's how FPIL works. I'm not sure. I'm assuming it's similar where they have a formula that says this is what the need.
Yeah, so I am not like the methodology expert. These numbers come from the state every year, but I do know that they take census, like self-reported income data from real people in the county from the census, and they do a lot of like math extrapolation to go up and down and based on family size for that. So there's definitely a lot of statistical
I was just wondering, because like
wizardry.
in Boulder in particular, there's a lot of places where there are single people gathered because they can't get a house on their own. And if they're counting everybody's income in that one house, that's probably gonna be all that,
Yeah.
like a roommate situation.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are doubled up, tripled up, like beyond, if they were to actually be in an income qualified program, they would not qualify because they'd be technically over income, but, so yeah, we'll get numbers for,
Because, you know, when you look at the stats, the numbers, but up to 4 people, it's pretty consistent on the higher end. It's front loaded on the front 4 people. Then when you go from 5 to 8, it's much less in between.
yeah,
So.
and again, I think that's because, they get the most
Stuff.
like actual data from 1 to 4 person households, and then above that, they have to extrapolate more, like with math. And I'm not a statistician, but we rely on the smart people at the state who crunch these numbers every year. So we'll get 2026 numbers in, yeah, April or May, and then we'll update accordingly. So what we're talking about mainly tonight and what will be our public hearing at council at the end of this month is our CAPER. CAPER is a fun acronym that stands for Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, because everything with the government has to have an acronym. So the CAPER is just our annual report that we have to send to HUD every year for our HUD money. And it's due at the end of March every year because our program year is the calendar year. And there are requirements about, we have to have a public comment period, we have to have a public hearing, which is the city council meeting. But even though the CAPER is technically just for our federal funds, we generally try to also talk about our accomplishments with our local affordable housing funds at the same time to just bring a complete kind of look at what we did last year. So starting with those federal HUD funds, so our primary source of HUD money that HCI gets every year is CDBG. So this is the Community Development Block Grant Program. And Longmont is an entitlement community, so that means as long as Congress is approving money for CDBG, we get an amount every year based on our population. So last year we got 488,849 for CDBG. We have to allocate our CDBG money based on a 5-year plan called the Consolidated Plan. And last year, if you guys remember, we had one meeting where our consultants came in and we talked about the Consolidated Plan. We updated that plan last year. So we are in the first year of this kind of new 5-year plan. So we have lots of fresh data and goals. And last year we, combining CDBG and home, which I'll talk about a little bit later, we served 103 households, the vast majority of which were at very low, actually extremely low incomes. And so that's great because the CDBG program is really intended to serve community members with those very low incomes. And as we'll get into, the primary use of our CDBG last year and then going forward is our housing rehabilitation program. So if you remember last spring, the folks from Brothers Redevelopment came in and they presented about their home rehab services. So we contracted with them and they are the folks like on the ground actually in the homes doing the work now. And then we work with them on the program management side, but they have that construction expertise and, you know, their guys and women go out and actually do the work. And then we kind of keep the money flowing through them. So we really got underway with Brothers not until the end of the first quarter last year. So now we're at a point where we're really ramping up and we expect to see the number of folks that we're serving with rehab dramatically increase this year. We ended up serving 10 households by the end of 2025, but it did take a few months to get all of our paperwork in order to get Brothers really moving and grooving. Our other big CDBG accomplishment last year was the Sweet Stores Rehabilitation Project. So this was an award that we actually made in 2024 to Longmont Housing Authority. So the Suites is a permanent supportive housing apartment community. It used to be a hotel and then LHAAB acquired it. I don't actually know the year, but a while ago, and then they turned it into supportive housing units for folks exiting homelessness. 2017, you think? That sounds about right. And And when the hotel was converted into apartments, there was some work done to make them suitable for apartment units. But one of the things that wasn't done was the locking mechanisms and the actual doors themselves. And if you all are familiar with hotel doors, they often have like a big gap underneath and people get locked out all the time. So it was really an annoyance for suites residents, and it was kind of a safety concern for LHA. So we used almost $200,000 of CDBG to replace all of the doors at the suites, which is really great use of those funds. Again, serving very low income people. Some tenants don't have any income, and making sure that all the doors are in good working order and people aren't getting locked out of their units. So that was completed by the end of December last year. So here we have some racial and ethnic composition data for our CDBG program. Again, those this includes CDBG and home. So of those 103 households I referenced earlier. And the reason I show this is we try to evaluate who we're serving with our federal programs against the overall racial and ethnic composition of the city to make sure we're serving the diversity of the community that we actually have. And then the blurb I have on the right is really just explaining that when folks are applying, for example, for our housing rehabilitation program, we ask them to fill out, to self-identify race and ethnicity. And a lot of folks don't feel like the categories that are presented to them, which are set by HUD, really reflect their identity. And some folks just don't feel comfortable filling it out. So our numbers that we have for race and ethnicity don't match the overall number because some people don't fill it out. And it's, you know, we do not want to force people to fill it out, nor are we allowed to force people. So I just call that out, that this continues to be kind of a talking point of, you know, these racial and ethnicity category buckets are set and they match the census, but a lot of clients just don't feel like they are very representative. So that's kind of the big caveat with race and ethnicity data, but we are required to report it to HUD. So we try to report it, do the best we can to get the data, but obviously we don't want to make people uncomfortable with reporting if they don't want to.
Sorry,
Right. Oh,
what,
yep.
why is the Hispanic down on the bottom?
So the Hispanic,
It's not in the total either.
yeah, so
Well, yeah.
Usually people have to check white or black and Hispanic.
yeah, so
Hi.
the
If I could
race
just
and
pop,
ethnicity. Sorry, Cassie. Basically they're separate categories. So race and ethnicity it's not like one checklist with all the buckets. Hispanic and not Hispanic is a separate question from race.
So Hispanic and not Hispanic, if you look at the 59 and the 20, it actually are categorized as white. And so you have to, you're considered white, but then there's another sub question that asks if you're of Hispanic origin. And that was back in the Nixon administration, they lumped everybody together and labeled Latinos or Hispanics as white. So
Thank you for that background. I didn't know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
thank you
great.
very much. Very helpful.
And we can probably do thanks for pointing that out. Maybe I'll look at doing the colors differently to make that more clear for council. But yes, separate question. And I did not know that about the Nixon administration.
I like to do it for long.
right, do them all. That's what my daughter does.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't get a good one. No, I don't.
And yeah, to your point, a lot of people just don't fill it out. And then that's why our total numbers don't match. So this is small, but this is just an overall snapshot of our actual CDBG that we spent in 2025. So you can see there's three main buckets. So we have the LHA suites doors replacement project, which came in. It was awarded $200,000 and they were able to do it for, they saved like $300, so good for them. Our second category is all of our rehab projects, so those housing rehabilitation projects. And you can see we have multiple years because we get CDBG every year, but we usually don't spend all the money we get that year. So we're constantly rolling over funds from past years. That's a big piece of what Larissa does and make sure we're tracking all that. And the exciting thing is we actually closed out 2022 and 2023 last year.
Not 23, 22. We're almost at 23.
We closed out 2022.
Yes.
Because we had kind of accumulated a few years build up when the program was lower, when we were in that transition of doing it with city staff versus contracting it out. But we are, like I said, rocking and rolling, and money's really flowing out the door more efficiently now. So good amount for rehab when we expect even more for 2026. And then this last line item is administration. So we are allowed to take 20% of our annual allocation. So that 488,000, we take 20% of that for staffing. And that piece pays for a portion of Alexis's position, and she is our federal funds program manager. It doesn't pay for all of it, and we need to supplement that with money from the Affordable Housing Fund. But we always take that 20% allowance that we're allowed to.
Can you roll over indefinitely from year to year?
I don't know about indefinitely. Is there like a overall?
You should-
I definitely doesn't like.
Okay, so they want you to spend it down every
Yeah.
year.
You should be spending it prior to spending New Year money.
Yeah, so there's a rule where you have to spend the oldest money first, which is why kind of getting rid of those 21, 22, and we're working on 23 funds is good. There's an online system that we track everything with called IDIS, and it's this crazy like 80s software, barely surviving proprietary HUD software. And if you don't spend money after a certain amount of time, you get a flag. And so, yeah, if you sit on money, HUD will notice, they'll flag you, and then they'll eventually start asking questions like, why are you not getting money out the door? So the fact that we were able to close out previous years is really great sign. Yeah, good question. I'm realizing now I can scroll. Okay, so home and home ARP. So far we mostly talked about CDBG. That's that money that comes directly to Longmont every year from HUD. Home is another source of HUD funding, and this is for primarily development projects. And if you remember from our consolidated plan conversations last year, Longmont is part of what's called the Boulder-Broomfield Regional Home Consortium. So this is a partnership with Longmont, the City of Boulder, Boulder County, and Broomfield, where we all come together and we kind of share home, this other source of money from HUD for projects. So our big accomplishment with home in 2025 was the In-Betweens Wesley Townhome Project. So I don't know if you all have driven by it or you're aware of it. It's just a few blocks up that way on Emory. So this was a really cool partnership between Heart of Longmont Church and the In-Between, which is a local nonprofit, and they really specialize in transitional housing, that kind of 30 to 50% AMI serving families. And they took this land that was kind of underutilized, just parking lot, and they built 11 beautiful new townhome style apartment units, 2 and 3 bedrooms, 4 families, getting in that transitional housing phase. And this was a very big effort. It had 2 separate home grants that required a lot of coordination with us as well as City of Boulder, because they were technically 3-party agreements. So an almost $600,000 regular home grant and then $1.2 million home ARP grant. That home ARP was a special bucket of home that came out of the COVID. ARP stands for American Rescue Plan. So that was that special COVID money. And then the project also got a $691,000 loan from our Affordable Housing Fund. So this was one of our big accomplishment projects from last year. Here's a very sweet photo of Molly, Alexis, and Melissa at the grand opening in October. And this is a photo from a sign that the In-Between had at the grand opening. And I just think it does a good job of highlighting, you know, this was a $6.5 million project, 11 units, so fairly small. This shows you how many different sources it takes to make an affordable housing project like this happen.
Wow.
You can see our 2 home grants were a big chunk. That was almost a quarter of the budget. Here's our City of Longmont Affordable Housing Fund loan. These are the award recommendations you all hear in May of every year. That was about 10%, but look at just all, Boulder County grant, the church land, other loans. It really takes so many sources to put together to make these projects happen. So every grant that we give really makes a big difference in getting these units.
Did you say that the church donated that property for this cause?
They donated the land.
Could you talk a little bit about how that came to be? That's wonderful that the church is wanted to use underutilized land for a valid purpose. Is that something that the city's been working on for a long time? Or did it surprise you that they came forward and said, hey, we'd like to donate it for this cause?
Yeah, good question. So specific to this project, the city wasn't involved in that piece. That was just negotiated between the church and the in-between as a nonprofit. But I will say that is becoming more common and more people are paying attention to specifically church-owned land for affordable housing projects. This is something that our Habitat affiliate is also doing. They actually have 2 projects going through planning approval right now that are both on property that they either were donated or got at a discount from a church. One of them is their 15th and Terry. It's right next to Faith Point Church. That's going to be Habitat's next big project. And there's actually some movement in the state legislature about allowing residential housing to be built more easily on different nonprofit owned land. So I think as the city, we have less and less land for new development over time, and we're going to need to see more infill projects. So projects on parking lots, projects on, kind of these smaller infill sites where you have to be a little bit more creative. But with any housing project, the land cost is such a significant factor in how expensive the overall project is that when you can get donated land, it makes a huge difference in able to make it happen. So yeah, that was the in-between and the church just came to that conclusion.
It's
It worked that out between 2 of them, but it's a wonderful partnership.
because you're, like, it says, what, 6.5 million there for the project cost?
Yeah,
It'd be 8 or more, probably,
Yeah.
to purchase.
yeah, for Marguerite, yeah.
And the church doesn't pay property taxes, so there's really no carrying cost for them to own that land. So they're not foregoing any, additional revenue. So it's just it's great when a nonprofit organization can.
I hate to
Step up.
interrupt. I can actually speak to that, to the church piece a little bit. I'm actually a member of that specific congregation. Hi, everybody, by the way. Sorry to chime in here from TV land as I get my kids kind of figured out for dinner and bedtime. But yeah, Heart of Longmont, that church actually was built as first UMC in the 50s, and that parking lot was designed for a membership about 3 times what the current average attendance is. So you've got a church sitting with a fairly large unused parking lot. And that really is a community-centered congregation that saw a need for housing and started through their membership, through their leadership team under the previous pastor there, to just work with different nonprofits who were interested in the land. They found a partner in the in-between. So it really was church initiated and then moved through the process before working in the city. It was a very cool process to see, and I'm excited to hear from staff that we're going to see more of it from different churches around the community.
Yeah, thank you for that context, Councilmember. Yeah, we love this project. We're very proud of it. And we won a national award for it. So this is a photo of Alexis at a National Community Development Association conference in Washington, D.C. back in February. So this project was selected as one of 7 community development projects throughout the whole country to receive this award from NCDA. So NCDA is the National Community Development Association, and they are kind of an advocacy group that advocates for good use of home funds, specifically these programs like CDBG and Home, and they recognize projects. They also provide training and technical assistance to cities like us who receive HUD funding. And this was a really exciting thing. We got a lovely letter from Congressman Joe Negus's office, and just a lot of great kudos for the success of this project. Again, to my earlier point of just how many different sources you have to puzzle together to make a project like this happen. And in this particular case, the federal funds was a very big component of that. So it was really cool to be recognized nationally and by our one of our congressmen. So continuing on the home theme, what's our next home project? Well, it's a habitat project, which we're excited about. So Habitat, our local affiliate, St. Vrain Valley Habitat. So they are actively under construction on the East Rogers Road. So it's going to be 9 new homes, just not too far. Wait, yeah, like I'm all mixed up.
Right.
Just a few blocks down there, there's going to be 9 new habitat homes. So they're 3 triplexes, so 3 homes connected together in 3 buildings. And this will be our first home project in a home ownership, so a forced sale project. Traditionally, the last decade plus, we've used home and rental projects like the in-betweens, but this is really exciting. Staff and City of Boulder staff, again, because we're in that consortium, so we have to work together on funds. And the City of Boulder is actually the lead of the home consortium, so they kind of have the pulling authority with HUD, if you will, and they're kind of the top entity in terms of having the power in the agreements. But we've been negotiating and working to get all of our there are many documents for grants in a row, and hope to be able to deliver this money to Habitat very soon. So from Longmont, we awarded them $184,000 grant, and then City of Boulder also worked on a little over $700,000 grant. So between the 2 sources, almost $1 million for this project. And then you'll see a theme here. Also, this project received back in 2022 about a $650,000 affordable housing fund loan for horizontal infrastructure that they were required to put in, kind of the water pipes, street infrastructure, sidewalks, before they could actually do what they're doing now, which is building the homes. So we're often having to pair our local fund with the federal grants as well. But super excited about this, and
Horizontal infrastructure.
yeah, all the stuff underground and on the ground.
If you drive by, they already have all that stuff. They have all the driveways and curbs and all that stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah, hopefully I actually want to, don't hold me to this, council member, if I forget, but my goal is in the next 2 weeks before the council meeting to drive by and take some photos, to have like pretty photos with this to show them being under construction. But yeah, this is the next Habitat project that will deliver homes this year. All right, so now we're transitioning into our affordable housing fund. So out of HUD land into local funding decisions. And apologies for my typo, this should be 2025. So last year we awarded about $1.9 million of affordable housing fund awards for a variety of projects. And I'm going to go into some highlights. So one of the big ones that I'm very proud of, because I got to work on many hundreds of pages of legal documents to help with the closing, but the cannery, again, right over here, just a few blocks away. So we granted Thistle Community Housing, which is a local nonprofit housing developer. They have projects here as well as in Boulder, $600,000 low interest loan to help them acquire the cannery. So I'm sure you're all familiar with this building. It was built in the 1890s as a canning factory. It was converted to housing in the early 2000s. And then since 2008, it's been affordable housing through the low-income housing tax credit program. So Thistle has been involved in the project since 2008. They've been the on-site property manager. But what happened in the last couple of years is it ended its initial, what we call a 15-year LIHTC compliance period. So usually with a tax credit project, the first 15 years, actually the tax credit investor, which is commonly a big bank, in this case it was PNC, was the majority owner in the ownership structure of the project. After 15 years, their PNC's gotten the money out of it that they were set to get from their investment, and they usually want to exit the project legally and not have any ownership over it. So that was occurring. So PNC had it on the open market. And from the city perspective, we were really wanting to see it be owned locally so that we know would be well maintained and kept as affordable, kept in good shape for the future. So we wanted to support Thistle in buying it outright so they can own it. So we did that and we closed on the acquisition this last, I think it was August. So that's very exciting. And I know that they are planning some rehab work to fix up some aspects of the building. So we might see them come in for an application this spring. Also related to the cannery, we helped Thistle acquire a property right next door to the cannery, so 41 3rd Avenue. This kind of has a collection of various outbuildings and there's like a shop, I think, as part of it, but we gave them a $400,000, again, low interest, affordable housing fund loan to help them purchase this. And the goal is to really expand just the affordable housing they have on this campus. So they've done some initial renderings of, if they did another multifamily building, how many units. They think they could put about 40 to 50. I've also talked to Thistle about potentially home ownership. So we're still very early. They just, again, got this acquisition done last year. So we have time, but a lot of exciting opportunities to increase the number of affordable housing units on this site, especially with all the redevelopment downtown. I think there's going to be, with the transit center, there's going to be a lot of development pressure coming. So the fact that we can secure this campus of really well-maintained affordable housing so close is great.
Is there any kind of efficiencies that developers can take advantage of that helps fast track this kind of workforce housing development, or do they have to jump through the same hoops and regulatory challenges that any kind of multifamily development would have to?
Do you mean with the city, like our
Yeah.
planning? Yeah, so good question. So yeah, we want to hold that thought for one part. So I have a slide that addresses that, and then I'll get to the rest of your question. The answer is yes. They have extra help to get through the city's permitting. And then the last highlight I wanted to mention, another use of affordable housing funds last year is the Boulder County Personal Finance Counseling Program. So this is a really great program. It's run by Boulder County and it provides a really wide variety of personal finance coaching for free to anyone in Boulder County, anyone in Longmont, Longmont City staff that wants to sign up. So they have pre-purchase counseling if you're interested in buying a home. They have foreclosure prevention counseling. They have student loan payoff expertise. If you just need help budgeting or saving for a particular big expense, or you're just trying to improve your living situation, they have amazing staff. They're all like HUD certified housing counselors and have a variety of personal finance accreditations. But this program we have supported for many, many years, and we're really seeing the benefits. So last year we spent $150,000 for kind of our piece to support Longmont residents, and 211 Longmont residents did sessions, and they did 248 sessions. And that means that a chunk of people went back more than once, which is great. So I know these are a lot of tables, but this is showing the demographic data of who came in and what did they need help with. And again, I want to show that we are really hitting the lower incomes. And so this is a service that I think provides, and it's very personalized. It's not like I can give you generic advice, but it's generic. It's like, no, they look at your bank statements, they make a plan with you. They'll pull your credit reports. They can give you one-on-one counseling. And they're really serving the mid to low income members of our community. So this continues to be very popular. We get very good feedback on it. This program also, all the folks buying homes in True North are new construction, affordable and attainable homeownership project. They have to do at least one counseling session, and we get great feedback from that as well, that people feel more prepared to buy a home after doing one of these sessions. So they're all free. If you need a personal finance coaching, I highly recommend it. All right, so getting back to the question about affordable developers going through the city's process. So one of the things that we provide out of the Affordable Housing Fund is we have an ongoing contract with Tetra Tech, which is a national planning and engineering consulting firm, and they have a office in Longmont here, walking distance. And we essentially subsidize the entire cost of Tetra Tech's professional planners and engineers to submit all of the permit applications for affordable housing developers. So the in-between, Thistle, Hope Longmont Shelter, which has been working on a potential permanent home, and then certainly Habitat, when they are able to utilize this team at Tetra Tech to put together these professional packages when they go apply for a PUD or for a site plan or complicated engineering drawings for having to do, again, that infrastructure for Rogers Road. And then Tetra Tech turns around and we pay their invoices out of the Affordable Housing Fund. And this is, in terms of outright dollar spending, last year we spent about $115,000, which doesn't seem like that much in the grand scheme of things, but we hear so much feedback from our developers, specifically from Habitat, who has multiple projects going through permitting right now, how valuable this is and how they would have a much more difficult and lengthy time just getting through entitlements without the service, because that's not to say our city is extra difficult. It's just that these are very complicated applications that are often require, CAD files and professional engineering documents, and they would have to go out and pay another firm to do that. And the fact that we can cover that cost for them just means that they're able to spend their time and their money when they're fundraising, and that gets put into the project versus paying engineering fees. So we will continue this service, and also our planning staff really likes it because they get really high quality professional submittals instead of like napkin drawings, which sometimes they get from market rate developers.
Wow.
So this is a really big piece of how we help affordable developers through our process.
Great.
And then the other piece I'll mention is, I don't know if she's no, but Melissa, who came in person in November, so she's our affordable housing program specialist. So her position is really a liaison position between HCI and planning, and she also gives one-on-one technical assistance and is kind of that in between to really help when there are affordable projects going through the planning and building permit process. She's like our dedicated staff person on the planning side. So we have money and we have staff capacity, which are really important to getting these projects from concept to getting people in homes. All right, I'm almost done, I promise. So I just want to highlight a couple of nice hefty state grants that we applied for and received last year. So we got a $750,000 grant from DOLA, the Department of Local Affairs, for our local down payment assistance program. You all might have remembered we talked about down payment assistance with Katie Silvas, who's online, who's our homeownership program specialist with you all last year. And we're super excited about this. We have over $1 million in the account to help you with people with down payment assistance. So we've had one closing in the fall, and we've already had multiple this year to date, and we expect dozens more, especially as True North homes begin to close in the next month. So really excited to get this money out into the community. And then the other big grant we got also from DOLA from Proposition 123 was a construction grant to help with phase 1 construction costs for True North. So we got that and spent it last year, and then we'll continue to spend that top 750 throughout this year. All right, and then Proposition 123 unit tracking. So very quickly, Proposition 123 is a state program that local governments can opt into and basically say, hey, we promise we are going to work really hard to deliver X number of affordable housing units by a 3-year period. So Longmont did that, and we have a goal of 304 units that we will have delivered from start of 2024 through the end of 2026. So something that HCI does is we are very closely tracking not only projects that have completed, some of which we've talked about, projects currently under construction, but also projects in the pipeline upcoming to see where we are on these targets. So far, we're looking good. There's a couple categories that you can also count towards your number that aren't just like straight up new construction, but this shows new projects and the numbers that these are contributing. So we should be in good shape to submit to DOLA by the end of this year. And really what that unlocks is we would not have gotten this money without that Prop 123 commitment. And if we do not deliver on this commitment, in theory, we are not eligible for future Prop 123 grants. So it's really an incentive that's tied to grant funding at the state level, which is why it's so, it's kind of a feedback loop. Like you get money for projects, you build the projects. If you build your projects, you get more money for projects is the concept.
Where's Habitat Sugar Mill?
Yep, so that's over across off of Great Western. So it was Sugar Mill was a market rate townhome project, but within that Habitat built 12 affordable homes. They're in duplexes. So yeah, if you go, it's across the diagonal from the old sugar beet factory.
Actually worked on one of those.
Me too. Yeah, we had a city staff volunteer day. I almost tapped out from heat exhaustion. We were siding in like 94 degree.
Oh my goodness.
It was rough, but they are beautiful. Yeah, if you're over there, go drive by it and look at them. And then you can see Habitat, East Riders Road, which we talked about. And then Habitat has a couple other projects in this Faith Point. That's the other church project, church land project. And that is a big one. That'll be 35 units. So we're excited about that. So that was all of my data slides. I recognize that was a lot, so thanks for listening. And again, we'll be giving this presentation again to council and having our formal public hearing that we need to have for HUD on the 24th. So happy to take further questions or pass it off to Alberto.
I didn't catch what CAPER stood for. This is an acronym.
Yeah, it just means annual report.
Do you want to stop sharing so folks have questions?
Yeah.
I guess I have just kind of a general question, just based on observation. I know in a lot of communities, workforce housing projects are oftentimes very controversial. Right? These public processes that local governments have to go through, people come out and complain about certain things that can jeopardize those projects. It doesn't sound like we have that issue isn't as big of an issue in Longmont as it is in other communities.
I think it just depends on where you're building. So if you think about the projects that we're building now, they're not in places that people would. So East Rogers Road has like that location.
Yeah.
Was where the art center used to take its donations, right? So it's kind of an industrial type of place. 15th and Terry is right near Maine. It's a big, there's a lot of duplexes, apartments. There is a trailer park right behind it, a mobile park. You do this near Thompson Park, I'm sure you would get the.
Yeah.
Specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a great question and it's a nuanced answer. I think it's a combination of obviously it stems from having great political support. City Council is very supportive of affordable housing, and that enables us as staff to execute our programs and know that when we take a funding, when I say, hey, can I give Thistle a $600,000 loan, I'm confident that they will say yes. So that's a part of it. But to Alberto's point, I think location is important, fitting in with the surrounding community context, but also we are very lucky to have such trusted, highly respected local partners in our nonprofits. I mean, the in-between is great, Thistle is great, Habitat is great, and these are names that when an application comes up, I think there's kind of that like folks in the community have heard of these nonprofits and they feel comfortable with them and they know that they're mission driven. So I think that also helps, as just having that versus like a no-name new entity coming in from out of town that you've never heard of. People might be a little more skeptical. So it's a combination of factors. But yeah, we are lucky in that so many of our recent projects, have not been controversial in that way.
I like that so many of the projects are attentive to like being on the bus line and like being
Yeah.
in proximity to a laundromat. Like somebody was thinking about
Yeah.
places.
And when you go for, I mean, these are like, proximity is something I think of when I do my local funding recommendations, but certainly even more at the state level, which are usually more strict criteria, like point-based. Those are all things that they are looking at because the state gets way more applications than they have money for. And so often developers are thinking about, how can I put together a project that will score well? Because I know I'm going to need that state money. And so a lot of those, we want housing close to jobs and services and transit and all those things. And so a lot of that is actually driven by the funding programs required, which is a good thing.
How much of True North is affordable housing? Is the whole thing? It's not, the whole thing is not affordable housing units, right?
So the whole thing is deed restricted.
Right.
We have, it's just south of Costco. Yeah.
They're putting them up quick.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
Yeah. We're excited to actually have some closings.
Yeah.
It could be in the next month.
Yeah,
But yeah, so it's 185 homes total, the whole project. It'll be multiple phases. All 185 will be deed restricted, but there's two categories. One category, which will be, we're requiring the developer to have 55 out of that total 185 be our permanently affordable deed restriction. So same deed restriction that goes on a Habitat home into perpetuity for families up to 80% AMI. The other 130 are this, what we're calling attainable bucket, which is between 80% AMI and up to 120% AMI. So more of that middle income. And that deed restriction will fall off between 11 years and 30 years, depending on how many times it's sold in between. But the goal of that was to create this vehicle for middle income families to gain equity if they stay in the home for a certain amount of time, which is 10 years, and like invest in the community, then they kind of gain, and then they're able to sell it at market rate. It's kind of it's a pilot project, and this attainable deed restriction is very new. We literally created it last year, and we are hopeful. I mean, we put a lot of thought into it, but it's kind of untested. So we'll see 10 years from now if it's having the outcomes we want. But that is the intent of that middle income band. But those 55 of True North will be that permanent into perpetuity, our standard, like a Habitat home, essentially. Yeah.
The hope is that resident will own that unit for more than 10 years so they can gain the financial benefits of
Exactly.
property that pays off in the long run, as opposed to that turning over every couple of years.
And they're contributing to the Longmont community in that 10 years that they're living there. And True North has, we built the buyer pool, and we have preference for like city staff and people that live and work in Longmont, St. Vrain School District staff. So the whole project was created with the intention of like, how can we provide homeownership opportunities for Longmont community members that want to stay and contribute in Longmont for the long term? Because it is a significant amount of Longmont investment. So like, how do we make sure that stays local?
Yeah, there's actually a bill going through on the House floor, trying to have it so that renters can start getting positive rental history.
Oh, like credit reporting stuff. I think I heard of that.
That pair well with trying to get like new.
Yeah, because the thing with True North is that people still have to qualify for a conventional mortgage. So, we are serving people that otherwise wouldn't be able to access the homeownership market, but you still have to be making a stable enough and decent enough income to be able to get a conventional mortgage. So True North is not intended to serve like the lowest income folks that are not well suited financially for homeownership yet. But really that kind of middle, frankly, a lot of like city employees that fall into that bucket, they make a decent salary, but they just can't afford a market rate home.
It's
So
180,
so 185.
185, and there's no, it's all home ownership.
Yep, so all the homes will be sold to individual buyers.
Yeah.
And there's an HOA and
Yeah. Interesting pilot.
yeah. Thank you for the questions. Great questions, everybody. Sorry, it took a long time.
No. Ready to move on to mine? Yeah.
Yep.
Mine is only 18 slides, so it's a little bit less than, but I'm sure we'll see. So. Here are big cookies. So Cassie and Heather, Marcy, you're missing out on some very good large cookies. Yeah, they're huge.
I know, I'm getting hungry watching you.
You know what,
Sorry.
Alberto, I put on about 15 pounds in the last year. I'm good at the moment, but actually, you know what? I changed my mind. Save one for me. I'll have one when I come in the office.
Yeah, whenever you come by, we'll have one. We'll save
Yeah.
one for you.
There you go. Thank you.
I'm gonna
And
share
great
my-
presentation.
Yes, she
Thank you.
always does. So I'm gonna share my year-end report for HSBC and Home City.
I love that we're doing our year.
We actually have to get it.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a photo. Oh, that's news to me. So I'll make sure I do that before. All right, so this is a year-end report for Home City and HSBC. So this funding comes from the other side that staff directs based on council direction from 2018 to split the human services fund in about 50% for homeless prevention and homelessness services. So I'm going to talk about the homeless prevention and the homeless services we provide with that funding. So let's see, here we go. So again, Home City was launched in April of 2018 as part of the coordinated response to the Human Services Needs Assessment that prioritized homelessness and homeless prevention services. So we've been doing this about 2018. With Home City, I like to do 2024 data to compare to 2025 data, just so you can see. In 2024, there was 38 total household assisted. 34 of them were able to remain in their current housing. One family was able to receive a housing choice voucher with LHAAB and able to move out. 2 individuals moved in with family. 1 individual moved to a more affordable place. 24 residents reached this is one of our goals is the program's goal is for families to reach at least some level of self-sufficiency. And so the 24 of them are no longer utilizing our center services, and Home City is administered by the our center. And then 14 families are still actively accessing the our center services. Typically, they're accessing the community market, the food, and you can see that out of the 38, 24 reached the saving goals of 1 whole month of rent. So like an emergency month, and 31 of them, and many of them use the
I love it.
what we fund through the city BDG, the Boulder County personal finance. And total amount that last in 24 was 91,000. And of the 38 38 households, 50% were 2 adults with children in the home. 39% were single individuals, and 11, that's right. The blues are very close to each other.
Yeah.
But I believe single parents were 11% and single adult.
I think it was 39.
Okay. Single,
Maybe.
yeah, sorry, I should change the color. So now we can go into 2025 data. So you can see that a whole lot more amount was provided, and we'll get into how it was spent. And there's one extra number that shouldn't be there, my bad. I think it's an extra 3. I think it's 139,986, but I can go back and check that. 34 households were helped, 21 were able to save that 1 month, and 29 received the financial support skills through the programs. 29 remain in their current housing of the 34. 1 received a project-based voucher, which is a little bit different than a HCD voucher. And, you know, I think Molly could talk more about that. 2 individuals moved in with families, and then interestingly, 2 individuals moved out of state. They just couldn't afford to live here. 16s have reached a level of self-sufficiency and are no longer utilizing, and 18 are still, again, primarily the community market. Okay. Let's, and same thing as if anybody has any questions online, go ahead and stop me. Here's what I really want to talk about, because this is interesting to me, and I had actually multiple conversations with the Art Center. So up until now, since 2018, I always ask, we always talk about, so what's happening? Why are folks coming into the Art Center or the Home City program looking for help? Vast majority of answers that I've gotten over the last 6-8 years has been medical reason, right? So somebody had an accident, somebody got an illness that they needed time away from work, and so that caused a stop in the income in the home, right? And so they needed this time to catch up or get better. This year, it was very interesting. So I asked the home study coordinator at the Art Center, so what is it? And she says, you know, 2-parent households are paying high rents and are having to rely on help. Single individuals are working 2 jobs to pay the high. So there's a theme, right? So it was interesting that this year, in 2025, the main reason was not necessarily some sort of life event. It was just the cost of housing. And so I double checked with her. I said, are you sure this is what you want me to tell the board? They go, yeah, this is what's happening.
We're living it.
Yeah, we're living it, right? And so they have seen a whole bunch of folks just struggling to meet their housing needs. I thought that was really interesting in 2025. And I meet with them monthly and then talk about what's going on. So this is kind of where the money was spent, right? So $2,500 for utilities, $3,600 for deposits, vast majority to help cover rent. And folks are coming in with larger back arrears, 5,000-6,000 in arrears. And so it's
Aliberto, maybe this is too simple a question, but is it that rents are going up or are the incomes going down, or is it a combination?
You know, I don't know the exact answer to that, Cassie. I could ask, but I'm gonna assume that it's the rent's going up, but that's just an assumption. But I can
Right,
ask.
thanks.
And Katie has a question as well.
I just want to comment, the cost of rents and for a monthly mortgage is significantly higher than I think a lot of people would think. So we're looking between $2,200 to $2,600 a month. And so if you're asking for $5,000, they're only behind by 2 months. So it's just something to consider. It's just a sizable amount to get caught up on their rent or their mortgage.
Thanks.
So yeah. All right, so, and again, look at, this is a little bit, I think, clearer. You can see that, I mean, still the minority is single individuals. Most of the folks that are being helped are families with children, right? So, only 27% were single individuals. The rest were parents that had their kids. So one of the things that we do is they do a survey. They send out a survey to folks that have graduated at least 6 months prior. It's hard to get a lot of return on those, but they do provide some incentives. This year they sent 14, they got 7 back. They got 50% back, which still is pretty good for surveys. And what we want to know is, one, of course, the usefulness of the program. 100% said 5, right? It was on a scale of 1 to 5. How helpful was the program to keep you housed at the same address? 100% it helped. How did Home City prepare you on a scale of 1 to 5? How well does Home City prepare them for future financial challenges? 100% said that they feel more prepared. But when we asked how confident do they feel that they can remain in their home on a scale of 1 to 5. 86% said 5, they felt very confident, and then 14% said probably, they were at 4. So I think those kind of tell us, the program is working as intended, that people feel prepared, people feel that it helped them remain housed. So I feel that we are seeing that investment is good investment. And I meet with them on a monthly basis, and we talk about trends, what they're seeing, and I just been very interested in it's not necessarily like I said, for many years since I've been here and we're doing this program, it was some sort of, a job loss for whatever reason, layoffs or whatever. And now it's more like, it's just expensive to be here. So any questions about that before I move to HSBC?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So since it's not about an illness, it's just about the rising cost of living that everybody's experiencing. I would imagine the demand for that kind of program is much higher than available funds.
Yep.
How do they decide who gets?
So they really look at, that's a great question. They really look at, they work with they do a lot of in-depth case management. It's really looking at sustainability. Is there opportunity for growing income? Is there opportunity to move into a more, more reasonable place? That's how they make those choices. But it's tough. It's tough to make of who. I mean, the first thing is income. There has to be, if there's no income, then they're not going to qualify for this program, right? Because it's only meant to be, a stopgap to help you get back. That was when it was first created. It's homeless prevention, right? Is
Like a Band-Aid.
yeah, it's really meant to like a bridge to get you from a situation to the next situation to a more sustainable situation.
But like if someone has a job loss and it's 6 months of rental assistance that
They can't cover 6 months.
they can only cover.
Well, it's only 5,000 per family. And
Okay, 5K per family.
yeah.
Okay.
That's only 2 months rent.
Yeah. And now what they will do is like, they won't, like, they might stretch it out and say, okay, what if we give you 1,000 a month for the 5 months and you work out how to get the rest, and, they'll work with you with it. So, but yeah, if it's all of your rent, it might be just 2 months.
How is your department getting this funding? And how can you apply for more? 'Cause-
That's from the general fund.
It's for the general fund.
4% of the general.
4%.
Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah, Councilor Marcy, you want to give us 4%? No, I'm joking. Totally joking. But that's where it comes from.
So
Yeah, it's not.
I'm interrupting again. Do you know how these? Oh, do you know how if these are biased? I'm echoing. So basically, the people who are more positive fill out the survey than the negatives.
I mean, we could talk about methodology. I mean, surveys are surveys. I mean,
Sample size is still small.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, thanks.
Even if they're done, it's impressive that they said anything.
Hey, yeah, you can't discount that. Well, you sent out 14, got 7%.
Yeah. Yeah. When I do surveys for nonprofit, they said the 25% was kind of the industry standards.
Yeah.
So
If you got 2 surveys, it would be.
When you get those robo surveys, how many of them do you hang up on?
Oh.
yeah. But again, it just helps to demonstrate the effectiveness of the program. I think the fact that the vast majority of families stay in the place where they were when is a really good indicator of how well the program is working.
I had a question.
It sounds like a great program.
On the your slide about you just talked about the trend in 2025 versus previous years.
Yeah.
Is that coming from their factual data? Is it coming from the coordinators? Just ad hoc?
I think it comes from their knowledge of the clients they're working with.
I'm just wondering, I mean, you gotta think that it was a problem in 24 too, and 23. It didn't just come up
Right.
in the last 12 or 18 months. But Yeah, it's just interesting. I just wonder how much, because there's always going to be medical, there's always going to be those types of things that come up, and you just wonder how. I would think this would be the bigger cause, in the data year after year.
Well, and I'll note too, so HCI, one of our big projects for 2026 is we're going to be updating the city's housing needs assessment. So we will have more data on what has job growth versus rent, especially for the last like 3 to 4 years, because our last housing needs assessment was completed in 2023, but it was based on 2021 data. So we'll have that starting this summer and then through the second half of the year. So we'll have, I think that will help like with the trends and getting a better sense of like what the actual numbers look like.
Right. In the 34 households is a small subset, right?
Yeah.
But that's just, they get that data from their case management work. So any more questions before I jump to HSBC services? All right, so HSBC, so we cover the navigation, we provide navigation sheltering through Hope here in Longmont, all roads, and I can talk a little bit about, so HSBC also started in 2018 as part of that work, and again, half of the human services funding that you all don't, that goes also to that funding, and we pay for navigation sheltering. I do want to point out that we don't pay for emergency sheltering. That does not come out of the navigation sheltering budget. Hope pays for that on their own.
What's navigation sheltering?
So let me talk about navigation sheltering. Let me talk about both of these. So navigation sheltering is, in 2018, we started HSBC as a collaborative between the City of Longmont, City of Boulder County, and our homeless services providers. And as part of that, we created a single point of entry, coordinated entry system assessment. If you're an individual, adult over 18 individual experiencing homelessness, you go to this assessment, coordinated entry. If you state that you have a disability, then you are referred to All Roads in Boulder. Mainly because they don't hold their sheltering in churches. They have an actual shelter. And so they're just a little bit better equipped to handle people with disabilities. If you say you don't have a disability, then you go to Hope here in Longmont. You are assessed to Hope to navigation sheltering. The difference between housing focused sheltering and navigation sheltering is, if you're in the navigation sheltering program, you are working to find work and to, you are able to work. You're not disabled. If you're in Hope housing focused shelter, then you are looking at how do you get SSI, how do you get on disability, that kind of pathway to home to housing. And so we help cover the costs for sheltering both in All Roads and in Hope. This year in 2025, we had 9,027 stays at the Hope shelters at the church's Journey, and for a while it was the Messiah Lutheran. Now they're meeting at UCC on 9th and Francis. And so there was 1,000 a night of stays of emergency sheltering. These are typically during severe weather, cold type of events. Okay, so that's how many stays we had.
Is this like the hotel you were telling me about last time?
No, that's the family hotel that her and I manage, and that's when Hope. So when Hope opens their severe weather shelter, Christina had asked council for funding a couple of years ago. We still have some of it. We have an agreement with the local hotel that if Hope opens and there's a family that needs severe weather, then we can put them up at that hotel while Hope opens their severe weather sheltering. Yeah, because you don't want to have kids at the Hope shelter. It's not a good place to be. I volunteered there. It's amazing people can actually sleep there. They do their best.
That don't have homes, but
Yeah, not
for kids, not for family.
Yeah. And so we also fund with this funding something called LTHERE, which is like a targeted outreach. It's an outreach program where we fund a licensed social worker and a peer navigator, peer case manager. And so they had 160 unique contacts that they worked with. Vital documents are getting people, because people who are experiencing homelessness lose or their IDs are stolen quite often. They don't have IDs, and so they got 38. They had 353 service appointments. These are appointments where they do case management for folks that are unsheltered. They're not staying in any shelter. And they were able to, I'm really happy about this. They housed 25 people straight from the street. In other words, these are folks that have been chronically homeless for, I mean, they told me some of the folks they house have been on the streets in Longmont for 20 years. And they were able to house 25 of them in 2025. So again, amazing program. They work, so just to talk about how they work with the city, I meet every week with this group. I coordinate, that's part of my work is I coordinate a Longmont outreach meeting, every weekly meeting. We meet at 3:00 on Thursday. We have this team, the elder team. We have our case managers from LEAD show up. We have the works program show up. We have our park rangers show up. We have our campus supervisors show up. We have the suites folks show up.
Yeah.
We have Annie and Millie's place show up. So we have a great discussion every Thursday about what are we seeing on the streets, what encampments are out there, who's out there working with them. It took a long time to get this collaborative working really well, but it works really well. We meet every Thursday to talk about it. We have Sarah and David from Public Safety Police are there. So it's a really great meeting. And so here are our exits. In 2025, 100 people exited homelessness from the Longmont. Of course, the biggest number is going to be navigation that came out of our navigation. 3 are diversion, and what that means is diversion is they go through CE and the CE screener says, hey, you know, there is a potential that you don't even have to go to shelter. I think because it's a pretty long assessment, we can get you back home. We can talk to your family, and so or we can reach out. So we helped 3 people not even enter our sheltering system. They were able to be diverted from homelessness back into housing. We got them a bus ticket, a plane ticket, whatever. We flew them to where they needed to be. We made sure that they had somebody waiting for them. And then 4 is reunification. That again, they are in the shelter, but then they're reunified with family or somewhere else. And then All Roads Housing Focus exit. They had 25 folks that they from the All Roads shelter in Boulder. So, you know, typically you would expect our navigation shelter to be our most. In 2024, they exited 101. Now, I want to kind of put that in context with the future. Part of the reason that we've had so many is because of the work that these folks have done. So a lot of folks moved into Zinnia. All right, so that's a big, you know, a lot of folks moved into Zinnia. This year, LHA has really partnered strongly with HSBC, and the suites are now being, there's a local case conferencing that is doing matches for the suites, and that's been super helpful as well to help people get housed that are experiencing homelessness. If we see challenges to our Longmont Housing Authority or housing, you know, if federal funds, if vouchers go away or things like that, then I'm not sure we're going to see these kinds of numbers. The highest, since I've been here, the highest was 112 in like 2019. And then it's been between.
And what's the estimated number from the homelessness count on average, would you say that we count for?
So unsheltered.
Unsheltered.
So let's talk about unsheltered. So.
Yeah, point in time.
Yeah, the point in time. So I think last year in Longmont, and I can go back and you can all look up at.
But just on average.
MDHI was about, I think, between 70 something. I know that PD last year did a really great job. They were out there with LEAD and they counted about 120. So I would say between 75 to 150 folks that are unsheltered.
So when you take that number and then you look at the total, like 100 people exiting, like that is a huge impact, right, on the system.
Yeah, and I didn't put it on here because I just did it. But when I track this numbers yearly, there was actually less. Like I think in 2024 there was a little over 10,000 stays. So I think people are getting housed and are staying housed. So I think we're seeing success. It's challenging. You know, when we talk about at our Thursday meetings about, you know, what the trends are, some of the folks that have been out there for many years, and some of them folks are, you know, in the midst of drug addiction, mental health, and those are some of our hardest to house.
And so what we're doing on the side when they're housed, like you all are you know, coming, you know, creating the opportunities. And then once they are housed, the other way that we're using marijuana is to hire clinicians and people that can do clinical case management to keep people housed. And so when you have people that have been unhoused for the majority of their lives, it takes a lot of support to keep them housed. And so we're fortunate that we have those funds and we don't necessarily have to bill for Medicaid, because that is a beast in itself. And we're not limited to the number of times that we can have an intervention with somebody. So I think that has also been a really good part of an addition to the system, that once people are housed, we work really hard to keep them housed. We, you know, work on preventative measures, whether it's boarding or whether it's, you know, just the mental toll that it takes on somebody from being unhoused all these years, and all of a sudden they're within, you know, 4 walls like that. That's difficult. So thanks to the city is huge.
And I think too, that's a great point about the interplay between HCI and Human Services, because we are 2 different departments. And it really is this full circle moment of, you know, in HCI, we're really focused on unit generation, creating the capacity for those units. And, you know, you all are focused on that preventative piece, as well as the, you know, working with LHAAB and other providers of like, how do we place folks into this? And it takes everyone kind of working on the pieces that they're specialized in.
Yeah. We built more of a connection in human services with core clinicians and with lead case managers to kind of create that continuum of services as well. So it's just really become a neat team to kind of see that evolve.
I will say I started at the city in 2018, and to see the level of collaboration just continue to grow has been amazing. When I first started, we didn't meet with public safety, but they didn't meet with us. You know, we all kind of stayed in our lanes, and it has, you know, thanks to the work of Christina and others who would just really pushed
That leadership has
and
been key. Our chief of public safety has been key in just creating that relationship. Like I probably work more closely. Well, I can't say that because I work closely with Molly too. Like it's just the teamwork amongst all different departments. Like we've really worked on kind of breaking down those silos, which has been really
It doesn't
good.
work this way in every city.
It does not work. People ask, well, how do you do that? And I think, you know, it's just, that's been Harold's directive since the beginning. We're not going to work in silos. We're going to look at this from a systems thinking perspective. And, you know, if we do something, how could it affect somebody else in another department? Like he really challenges us to look at that. And so that's huge.
Yeah.
That's such an important factor, because I usually scare people when I start talking about, well, it's discrimination if you don't allow them to go in there because they're using, that is a protected diagnosis.
Yeah.
And, but we have like a bunch of places that are technically condemned because they have been exposed. Like those are the perfect locations to put and house people that are still in active use. Like, why are they just sitting there empty?
Well, and we really have been able to, from our part of things, like look at it from a harm reduction model. Like how do we do that? And so starting those groups, and like we have our lanes as far as the, you know, what housing and what fair housing, that the role that takes. And then we have our lane of kind of those protected factors and looking at that harm reduction model. So people kind of stay in their lanes, but we work really well with different.
And I think to your point, that's why it's so important that our affordable housing spectrum is just that, a spectrum. And we have, we've been supporting Hope and their
Yes.
quest to look for a more permanent shelter location. So we're helping them on the entitlement side. We have the in-between, Wesley Townhomes, which is really that 30 to 50% transitional housing option, really geared towards families. We have other projects with All Roads looking at more harder to house, then all the way up through to Ascent. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony for LHA's newest multifamily project, Ascent at Hover Crossing last week. And that's multifamily with an early childhood education center. But the folks going in there and the folks going in All Roads are not, they have their different populations with different needs. And then all the way up through homeownership opportunities, people that want to buy a home but need help getting in and addressing the entire band of not only the income spectrum, but people's needs and household type, from individuals all through families with children, is really important. Why we have this diversity of projects. And that's why, I keep coming back to the power of having our local funding source is huge, because we can fund this big variety of projects that most of the funding for affordable housing out there is a little bit more cookie cutter. Like, this is the type of project you have to have. The in-between would not have happened without, it didn't go and get a bunch of state money because it's too small. 11 units, it doesn't fit that mold, but we were able to come in locally and with the federal. So having the affordable housing fund from the unit generation perspective is just so critical, so that we can direct funding to the data of what we're seeing of where the housing need is in the community and respond very agilely and very quickly. So it is.
I think the CHAPA the administrator from CHAPA, when he talked at the Ascent at Hover Crossing opening, he really talked about it being like a model that other municipalities, other developments are looking at statewide. It's huge to be able to have childcare co-located where you're living. Could you imagine when daughter was little, to just be able to drop her off at daycare, go to work, and not have to do that shuffle? That's going to help people stay employed. So it's really exciting.
So any questions about my presentation?
No, Goldstone.
We're trying. Housing's always gonna be an issue. Mental health is always gonna be an issue, but I think, again, I don't wanna, reiterate so much, but the fact that, we put marijuana dollars into clinicians, that's just, those types of things are super helpful.
And you guys are getting another one. Can you tell us how many clinicians?
Yes, when the system is all built out, what we will have, we're actually going to utilize them in a little bit different way. So we're going to have clinicians that do essentially the prevention work from early childhood youth to seniors. And so we'll be able to serve and beyond that, crisis, because it's all going to live in the same place. So that system is going to be built out, and we'll be able to work with people in crisis, people that have early childhood needs, have needs with their teenagers, with older adults. And so all in all, we'll have about 14 clinicians in that system, and be able to work with voucher holders as well. It's going to give us the opportunity that if we get a referral from, Amy at the front desk when she's at LHA, to say this mom came in, this dad came in, they're a voucher holder, XYZ is happening, can we refer them to this program to get some either clinical case management or mental health support? It's going to be pretty easy to do that.
All in Salesforce too, baby.
It's all in Salesforce, and so we'll be able to measure impact. Yeah, be able to measure impact, and have some really good, report out on health.
And I think, a good thing to call out our city manager, a lot of this came out of his idea of the Center of Excellence model. And so we meet cross-divisionally, cross-departmentally to create that system. It's really called the Mental Health Center of Excellence, right? That Christina's gonna kind of be the lead of, and, that really came out of that work that Harold's done, that created the neighborhood impact team that we're a part of as well, that does a lot of things throughout the city. So I think I'll credit our city manager for that concept.
Okay, it's kicking and screaming. It was good.
All right, unless there's any questions for me.
Very interesting and inspiring.
Release application.
Oh, yeah, that would be.
Oh, yeah. This is just an update on the presentation, but, so we're talking about all the cool projects we funded last year. So we'll be opening applications for, HCI on April 3rd. I believe it's the Friday, and we'll be coming to you all in May with those work presentations, and
That's when we're gonna
do it all over again.
remember that May when we're gonna be a different location, because we're not gonna do what we did last year. Yeah, so we're probably gonna be at a different location for that. Let's just remember that at the main schedule. We already scheduled just like we're gonna leverage bigger rooms around. It's pretty tight. Yeah.
I think the board seems to appreciate it, and it's nice to see faces when they're asking for money. Yeah, I'm not, so this year we're putting out for housing fund, Fulton County Affordable and Attainable Housing Tax, also referred to as the Prop B. So this was a Fulton County sales tax ballot initiative that passed in 2023. And this is the first funding cycle we're putting out for competitive awards. Mine has worked very hard to negotiate that idea with Fulton County. It's taken quite a while. We are ready to accept applications for that as well. So yeah, hopefully get some cool projects in for you all to review. I've had a few conversations. I know some of our frequent flyers, Thistle will be in, Habitat will be in, Northern Redevelopment. We'll see some familiar faces, but yeah, it's always fun to keep building the pipeline. And for the just yeah. It's other business.
Do you have any other business? Martin, do you have other business?
Oh, yeah, y'all sound like robots, so I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if it was me. So yeah, your audio is a bit hard to hear. It's not other business, but I do have a quick report if that's okay for the board. Thank you. So first of all, again, I appreciate you letting me join you virtually. I've enjoyed the conversation. This team, just the work that Liberto, Christina, our housing team, everybody's doing is just amazing. So thank you, and thanks to the board. Did just want to update you really on one substantive piece that I kind of gave a hint to last month, but we'll follow up on this month because it's final. Council did adopt final rules of procedure that incorporates changes into how boards and commissions are appointed. Ultimately, the changes wound up not being, it's not hugely different with a couple exceptions. Current board applicants will not be able to be part of the interview committee. They changed the interview committees to the language is at least 2 members of the board. So theoretically, it could be the entire board who is not currently applying, who sits on an interview subcommittee, theoretically. And then the second piece is, as you may have seen in the Times Call, Council did choose to retain the element of boards formally recommending their candidates for appointment. And again, I just want to remind this board, council reserves the right to appoint the applicants of their choice, right? So even if a board recommends a candidate, council may choose to go in a different direction, et cetera. But those are kind of the substantive changes. Happy to answer any questions about that. In general, you're getting the interview process will be at least 2 members of this board that you will decide upon in a public vote, in a public meeting. So it can't be an email conversation that's like, hey, I'll do it, or I'll do it. It has to be publicly recorded. And then current applicants cannot sit on that. The interviews will be recorded virtually and conducted online. Those recordings will then be shared with council. Council will not interview candidates. So if you're up for reapplication and you're going to reapply, you only have to go through 1 interview, and that's with the current board, not with council. Council will review all of that material, look at your recommendation, and then make their decision. So that's kind of the substantive appointment process changes. Yeah, in general, that's the update I have. Is there any comments, questions, joys, concerns from the board that I can address or answer, or anything that folks want to ask about on that or any topic?
Yeah, no, I think, Councilor Martin, that at this point, we're a small enough group right now that, we could just try and do the interviews as the whole, because there are only 5 of us, right? 5 board members right now, so.
Yeah.
We could just,
Yeah, and they did, it was originally in the language only going to be 2 plus a staff liaison and the council liaison. It is now at least 2 is my understanding. So, and that was adopted on 3rd and final. So I think that generally is going to be the process, and that is starting like now. So that's my big push. If you have good people who have big hearts and want to do good work and care about our community, tell them to apply. We'd love to talk to them. Or you'd love to talk to him because, well, no, I'll talk to him because I'm the liaison. But
council liaison also.
Yeah, council liaison as well.
Yeah, I thought you have to be a part of it as well.
Yep, it'll be me, it'll be 1 staff liaison or 2 if you guys want. I don't think there's any limits on staff liaisons, and then at least 2 members of the board. Okay. Any questions on anything else?
We can put that agenda for April 1.
Council member heavy, in the application of like, they don't interview, but they can go another way against the recommendation of the interview.
They
Yeah,
can.
It's a little weird.
Council is the appointing authority, so that's by charter. So charter says council's the appointing authority.
Yeah, I mean, they
Yeah.
would happen. I
Yeah.
just think that was like, okay.
But that was what,
We're gonna-
Martha? Sorry.
Basically said like, we're gonna do what we want when we want.
Yeah, and honestly, and I'm curious about your board's feedback. I'm curious about this board's feedback. I personally pushed to change that a little bit because it does seem kind of silly in a lot of ways that boards can tell us one way and then we can go a different way. I said, well, let's just, if council's the appointing authority, have council kind of make the decision, but my teammates wanted to empower boards, and I get that, and have your voices clearly part of that process. But no, it is true that if we have 6 applicants and we don't like the ones you recommend, we could vote for, other ones, and that's per charter. So, yeah. And the board recommending
I
piece,
hope that
sorry.
wouldn't happen.
Yeah. And sorry.
I didn't hope that would happen.
Yeah, I mean,
And I hope that people,
I'll
the
tell you this
decision makers would get to answer or ask the questions that they want to
What was
as
that?
the
Sorry.
decision maker. I would just hope that the decision makers, like, they took out their ability to ask questions.
Yeah, and that's where the council liaison being part of the interview, I think
Yeah.
is the idea, is that council liaison is not just representative of themselves, but kind of the whole council to speak to council priorities and then report back to our council teammates, and really kind of be a check on that process. So council is a part of it. We're just breaking up the workload to our own individual boards. And sorry if you hear my son screaming. He's not a big fan of bedtime if you hear crying up in the background. So yeah, I think I hear you, Martha. Or Chair Wilson, excuse me. That's a good point. The truth is we can try this for a year or a cycle. And if it gets to the place where we're not feeling it's working, because I think the goal of making the change in the first place was to improve some process issues we ran into with one of our boards, which has been pretty widely reported on for anybody who follows Times Call or anything. And to try to ensure that we have total above board appointment processes that are public, transparent, and open, and also alleviate some staff time. So the second interview was a big lift for staff to get scheduled for like that council interview. And honestly, I was kind of bummed last time around that I didn't get to talk to all the applicants. I only got to talk to the recommended applicants, which also didn't seem correct. So we're going to try it this way. We can obviously at a year go back in and say, hey, this isn't working. We need to make a couple revisions here and there. But basically, you will make you'll talk to folks. I'll be there. We will recommend. You'll make a recommendation. I'll report back to my council teammates as well, and we'll make a vote. And that vote is public. You all can go back and look at at whether I voted for you all or not. Although I've only done it once, so I don't think I think only one person on this board I was able to vote for. But who is up, by the way, this midterm, this mid-year one?
None, Jay. Young guy?
None?
No,
So we're just trying to.
I don't think
Nobody's up.
nobody.
We just need more.
We just
Yeah,
have, we
so
just
hey,
have,
you look, it doesn't have to be an expert. Just tell your friends to get involved in the community and who, care deeply about the work. So, yeah, are there any other questions that I can answer about any topic going on in the city? Anything going on anywhere? Any curiosities that folks have? Because I feel that's one of my responsibilities as well, is to, I tell my students in my classroom, what have you heard? What are you wondering? What misconceptions can I answer? Anything else?
But we do have open.
yeah. No, thank you, Councilmember Martin. I think that I think this board has always been out front as far as recruiting. Like I said, when we first started, we had a nominating committee, and then we decided that no, we just want the whole board to do it, and we all, and of course, we always do a hybrid version, so they're always online, they're always recorded. So
And I will very likely continue to be online for most of our meetings, unfortunately. I actually am also the liaison to Sister Cities, which is just wrapping up their meeting down the hall. So they're pretty self-sustaining over there, but I tend to try and keep things I tend to focus on you guys, but keep an eye on them too. So, and then the kids as well. So I'm in like 4 places at once, but I appreciate your efforts and your continued work. So if there's nothing else for me, that's cool. Obviously, send me an email if anything pops up. I'm around.
Thank you.
Councilmember. Open the 24th.
Yeah. Well, before, just so you all know, Christine and I are going back to council on April 7th to further the conversation about the human services funding. So we'll keep you posted as that happens.
Yeah, as we get policy direction.
Yeah, and you guys have been involved in this conversation for months, if not years. So we'll see what they bring it back to us to work on this year. So, and I am working on I think I told you guys at the February meeting, we have separated, and so I'm working on an application to bring to you, hopefully the April meeting. So, all right, that's all I had.
Anyone wanna?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All favorites?
Right.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Can I take a cookie home?
Yeah. Bye, Cassie.